everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. My name is Joe, and with me is...
Jack.
Jamie.
And Data.
Yes, we're all here, and we're talking about a few different things. We read 4 little sections here for this week. First was the Ars Arcanum from Elantris, and we read about the door and some interesting things about the shard system. And then we read on the cell system, which went into more depth about the investiture, had some interesting tidbits about how there were 2 shards that were part of Elantris, and also how they're both dead, and how all of their power is in the cognitive realm, which makes sense based on what we read in Secret History. Then we read some about a short story where we find out Serene's pregnant, which is cool. And then we hear about some of the events at the end of the Book of Elantris that were told from a different perspective. So that's what we're covering this week. Hold on to something, everyone. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
So yeah, what did you guys think of not really chapters, these 4 things that we read this time?
Yeah, no, like these were good. Like a little bit of new information here and there. Like probably in the Selish system, the thing I most retain is like, oh, this was also a 2 shard system, because I'm pretty sure the essay on the Skadron system said it was unusual that it was a 2 shard system. So I guess that's why I never suspected that all through Elantris. But look, we called it. Devotion was at least one of them, but I think from Secret History that wasn't too hard to puzzle out. So that was cool. Interesting that it and Dominion are both dead and dispersed. So I guess that brings the shards down to 13 if we take account that Sayce has 2 now. So
Yeah, I guess
at least a maximum of 13 that can be out there. So that's fairly interesting. I really liked the Hope of Elantris. I get 100% why it wasn't included in the book. I think given how much the perspectives chopped and changed around the place, it probably could have been put in there somehow, but obviously it wasn't written when the book first came out. So because I read the blurb that he wrote afterwards as well, it's like, oh, this is how I came up with this story. So that was cute. But yeah, no, a really nice little story, very heartfelt, and just good moment of a couple of characters we didn't really get to see as much of in the book. So that was cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this all.
Yeah, I mean, the main character from the story, I don't think was even named in Elantris.
No, she wasn't.
So yeah, definitely, it's nice to see some other perspectives from we basically had one perspective within Elantris. It was always Rowden, except for the brief time Serene was there. So it's interesting to see other thoughts.
But also just like Daishi or whatever the pronunciation is, this has been killing us all book. He was kind of just there. He's the grumpy soldier that worked for Karada and then took over after Sauron died. So we didn't really get to see much of him. It was actually really cool seeing another side to that guy. I'm like, oh, I really like that. It was nice to see. It's like, oh, he's not just like a total ass. He's actually a really loving guy.
Yeah, no, I liked getting these little extra bits of information, Dominion and Devotion. I thought that was pretty cool to put names on them, even though we pretty much thought Devotion was a thing anyway. I really enjoyed just little bits of information. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that I still don't understand, because obviously we haven't read those bits yet. But
Right.
To have a few things pop up, I think reading Secret History when we did was really good, because now we already understand a little bit about the Irie and other things that have popped up in those chapters as well. So that was pretty cool. Kind of good to get a little bit of, I guess, more context around Cell, the planet, and that there may be other areas on this planet that we might come back and explore at some point. It's not just like Elantris and the countries that we've had in this book. So it's nice to have some little, I guess, hints of things that might come up as well. Yeah, and another Hoyd story and his little friend up there too. Yeah, good. Always good to get just a little bit of extra information. And yeah, the Hope of Elantris, I actually like that story. I'm kind of glad that they didn't go through and manage to kill all the children.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made me happy. And also just that the kids were doing really well in New Elantris. And they had their coloured sheets and their shoes and going back to school. And I was like, they were doing really well, and that was really, really heartwarming.
Yeah, I mean, during the actual book, I don't think it even ever crossed my mind to like, oh man,
No.
did they kill all the kids too? But
No, I mean, I guess it's not something that I thought of, but it was also like, yeah, well, they killed everybody. Like, it was
Yeah.
just Galadon and Karada left. So, I mean, it makes sense that they would have killed all the children, but I'm pleased that that hadn't eventuated.
yeah. Also, I like your point about the other areas. I think it's one of my favorite little notes from that the Selish System thing, where it's like, so yeah, there's like 3 major kind of empires or whatever on the planet, and they get by like basically pretending the other ones aren't really important or big enough to worry about. I'm like, oh, well, that's super interesting, actually.
Yeah, imagine having this planet and being able to traverse water and everything and not wanting to explore the other areas.
Right? It's weird.
Crazy. But what does that do for the magic systems elsewhere? I mean, we've already had little hints at the end of Elantris that you've got other ways to access the door. So what else happens on the planet? I mean, the whole planet was Devotion and Dominion's territory, so who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wonder if that was Dominion's influence for them to not like care about the other empires. Or maybe the opposite. It was Devotion's influence. Like, I'm devoted to my kingdom. I don't care about these other ones.
Yeah, maybe.
But I enjoyed everything for the most part. I actually found the Hope of Elantris kind of boring. I mean, I guess just because it didn't add it did add some extra character development, which was interesting, but it didn't add like anything substantial to the story as far as like secrets or anything like that. So that was kind of a letdown for me. But we got some good tidbits, especially from the Selish System essay and the Ars Arcanum. I really liked some of the things we found out about the shards, and also I feel like the Hoyt stuff was really good too. And my guess, based on something that's said in the essay, is that the thing with Hoyt was like a dark Seon, like a Skaze or whatever. That would be my guess based on what Data told us.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, what Data told us last time, and then also just from reading kind of the other stuff. So that was kind of cool that one technically made it into the story, and it sounds like they got like plans or something. But yeah, we'll get into that. So yeah, but for the most part, I liked everything. I probably could have not read the Hope of Elantris, and I don't feel like I would have really missed out, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that definitely seems to have been a Skaze, or however you want to say it, the mean version of Aeons. And I don't remember if it's written in there or if it's just like something that the fans think, but it basically seems like Seons may be pieces of Devotion and Skaze are pieces of Dominion.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's also interesting to me that all this talk about Domi in the book, and clearly it's a shortening of Dominion, and they paint Domi as being like this god of love, which seems like it would fit Devotion more than Dominion. But
I did not put together that Domi was meant to be Dominion until you said it. Oh, now I feel like a slow idiot.
I mean, I didn't really put that together either, but at the same time, I would say it kind of makes sense for them to get it confused, because you're talking about a world that had 2 gods, but they don't even really remember the gods themselves. So it would probably be very easy to get those 2 crossed in storytelling. Or if somebody's trying to persuade you to their religion, they're like, well, actually, by getting quote unquote confused with this other god, really they're just saying, well, let's just give him the characteristics of that benevolent god, and then people will like him. So it makes total sense that would get crossed.
Yeah, I mean, even more recently than that, we know that from what Serene was saying, that basically Jadeath was like this unimportant god that watched rocks under the earth or something, and then he got elevated to this different position within this new church, basically. So clearly that sort of thing happens. Okay, I guess let's get into these. The On Aeondor section, most of this, the 3 sections are actually, other than the short story, are all pretty short. But this one starts out talking about the Aeons and how they're part of the Aeonic language. But actually, if you look at study the language part, then they may predate the invention of this language, and it may have like Duladel language family may have evolved to encompass the Aeons and include them when people moved into this part of the country, meaning that maybe the Aeons were here and people showed up and learned them from whoever or whatever was here in Erelon. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know what it tells us exactly, but
How old is Elantris, was it?
Elantris is very old, and in fact, I think Brandon, I don't remember what it says in here, but Brandon has said that it predates the arrival of the Aeonic people. So somebody probably lived here and created Elantris before these other people showed up. And then people didn't even start becoming Elantrians until like a few decades after people had settled here near Elantris.
Okay. Maybe the Seance taught them.
Could be. Yeah, we still don't know anything about where Seance come from, really.
It's like, hey, you're gonna come onto our turf. You're gonna learn our written language.
I like the Seance were just all hanging around Elantris, like, what are we gonna do for like hundreds of years or something?
Why do we even have doors? We don't have arms.
But her conclusion here, because remember Chris wrote the Ars Arcanum, is it's like, who created the Aeons, or did like the landscape somehow dictate the shape and sound of them? I don't know, but you can see why this drives my curiosity. Then we find out that Aeons, we already knew this. She's talking about Aeons have to be drawn exactly right, which is kind of different from how it works in other magic systems, she says, in the Cosmere. Elsewhere, if you think you're doing something correctly, then often it works. But here, even a tiny mistake invalidates the Aeon. You can't accidentally draw an Aeon. She's like, it would be really hard because of how complicated they are, and the fact that only Elantrians can draw them in the first place. But I've tested it, so...
How do you test something to happen accidentally?
I don't know. She's tested it to her satisfaction. Maybe she like forced an Elantrian. She's like, hey, I need you to make this hand motion or something without them realizing it was part of an Aeon. I don't know. But
this raises so many questions.
Right?
She has her ways.
I imagine she's just like sitting there with an Elantrian like, okay, I need you to run through a series of tests for me. No, you don't know
why?
me.
She's like, I'll pay you. He's like, I don't need money. I could turn anything into gold.
Right. She's like, she thinks everybody on the planet is basically has some sort of connection to the door and investiture, much as you would find on other planets where full shards of Adonalsium have settled. So, okay, good to know. But uniquely, on Cell, it seems like one's spiritual connection to birthplace determines the flavor and style of their invested connection. So when it talks about flavor and style, you can think of it like kind of like Mistings, I guess, from Mistborn. They each have this connection to the power, but it's a different sort of connection, right? Because they can do different things with the power.
Yeah.
So she's saying basically where you're from, where you're born, determines the different things that you can, different ways of accessing this.
Yeah, so I guess like the Fjordals that with their weird Fjordal magic, they're the only ones that can do it because they were born there.
I guess
which
so.
also makes sense why only certain people can
Become Elantrians?
Yeah, become Elantrians. And my guess, based on something else that is said, where they're talking about similarities to Duladel, is maybe Duladels or Doulas can become Elantrians because of their like original heritage.
Yeah, probably. Because it definitely seems like what we're hearing here is that the people migrated from Duladel like up into this area, and so they have a shared heritage. But initiation is the one that I feel like drops some very interesting things in here. First of all, this is where we learned that it's like their gods are dead. It's like the general public think that there's divinity is choosing who becomes an Elantrian. I find this unlikely considering that their gods are dead, and by my best guess have been for a very long time. I wonder if they know that they are channeling the corpses of those gods in the outpouring of their magic. So how do you become a practitioner of Aeon Door? It doesn't appear to be tied to family descent, like on Scadrial. So we know that Allomancy is inherited on Scadrial, right? So,
yep.
Nor is it a specific shard's decision, as on Nalthis. So here's another planet where apparently the shard decides who gets access to magic. Even Taldane's and Vax's methods do not seem to apply here. So there's two more planets. We don't know exactly what those methods are. Does anyone recognize the word Vax? We've heard it once before.
Preservation said that right before he died, didn't he?
It was Ruin who said that. Yeah.
Ruin.
Yeah. Like the redheaded guy who was the shard holder after he died, his like spirit came into the cognitive realm and he looks around and he goes, Vax? Like with a question mark, and then he dies after Kelsier punches him. So When Secret History came out, I don't think that we knew that that was a planet. Everyone's like, what does that mean? Is it a person? Is it a place? What is it? And so this seems to imply that we're talking about a planet. She concludes that she can only surmise that random chance must be involved unless there's a hidden pattern that she's not been able to discern. So lots of interesting little Cosmere knowledge nuggets, as Joe says, in that one. Not quite as much as what we get in a minute.
I didn't eat dinner yet, so what I really need is some chicken nuggets.
Nalthus. Got to keep an eye out for Nalthus.
So we cut to the secret added thing that slipped in here in the postscript, where Hoyd the beggar is up on the mountainside looking at the pool. I assume it's the same pool.
Yeah, I think you're getting his name wrong. I think it's the Sexy Drifter.
Sexy Drifter, hanging out, being cool, being sexy.
He's not the only person here getting their name wrong.
Right? That's the best.
Yeah, that's true. I was confused. I was like, is this guy being annoying on purpose, or
I think he is, yes.
Yeah, I was
He's
confused.
just being a dick.
Why I keep calling him a Hoyd?
So Hoyd is wearing bandages, and remember, I guess like we found out that Serene's never saw his face, basically, and apparently he was all bandaged up. Although I don't know that we know that this takes place like immediately after the book or anything. This could be much later, theoretically. I don't remember if there's anything in here that locks it down as in a time period.
Just based on what he's talking about, I would assume it's like the day after everything went down, because he's like, he's making comments about how he didn't change. He thought he might. So I would assume that it's like pretty soon after Elantris is restored. So that would be my guess. It's like it's the day after.
I mean,
that was my thought too, because it's like, if he's waiting to see if he's gotten the powers, why would he wait like longer than that?
Well, I was thinking that it might. I mean, the restoration of Elantris might not be what he is thinking gave him powers. He might have done something else and thought that gave him
that's
powers.
true. But I mean, if it is the restoration of Elantris, it would be funny if he's just like, well, let's give it a week. Maybe something will happen. No, still nothing. Bummer.
One has to wonder why he would think that, and we don't get any explanation. He apparently did something that makes him think that he's going to transform, when we know only people from this area can become that. So, interesting.
Well, and that kind of feeds into my theory that he was like trying to find the shard, like he's trying to find the power of all the shards and like take the power. So maybe in this aspect, he thought he found maybe some shard power somehow, and thought maybe he'd change.
And the Skaze is like, you didn't honestly expect to find yourself transformed? And I was just like, I kind of did. He's looking over his hands, like trying to spot some glowing. Maybe a little, no, okay. And the thing, which I don't think it describes it right away. There's just a voice saying this stuff, and it's like you would have felt the effects earlier. Hoyd, he's like, Hoyd, that's an important distinction here. He's like, yeah, that's what I said. Hoyd, never mind. Like he stands up, brushes off his trousers, which sends up a huge cloud of dust. He's like, oh right, I'm wearing a beggar costume. Yeah, all right. This is where he tells us that his companion is a hovering dark sphere about the size of a melon. It somehow sucks in light and doesn't have distinctive edges that you can make out.
So he's like a hovering black lightsaber. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Ringed with a pattern of misty symbols that ran like a hoop from its top around the side to the bottom and then back up to the top.
Speaking of which, first episode of Boba Fett was good.
I haven't seen it yet.
Neither do I.
I'm going to. I just did not. And the Skaze is like, okay, what now? And Hoyd, he says, hey, did you know I once ate a live frog?
As one does.
It's such a random statement.
Right? You're just like, oh, okay, where did that come from?
Even the story he tells afterwards to kind of explain doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, he's basically saying, like, I don't have it all that bad, but still.
I love his description.
Bad enough to be eating frogs.
Yeah, well, and he doesn't explain why he ate the live frog either. But I love his description where he's like, it was mostly a frog anyway. It had like an extra leg or two. It was violet, but basically same thing. Slimy, amphibious, all that.
Sounds like it was meant to be venomous.
If it's all colorful, yeah.
Yeah, weird colored frogs normally means venomous or poisonous. Wait,
maybe he was trying to get high.
Okay, yeah. Are you looking
slimy
toads?
yet satisfying.
Is that what we need? A high Hoyd?
Right.
He's
not weird enough already.
Yeah. I mean, he could only get sexier if he's high.
He's like, When I reflect upon my illustrious life, that moment inevitably surfaces as the nadir of my experiences so far. That's a low point for anyone out there not familiar with the term nadir.
Yeah, I think we're all verbose and stuff, throwing these big words around. Jeez.
And I like this. The Skaze is like, yeah, I thought I'd found my low point also until I met you. And Hoyt's just like, hey, good execution on that insult, unexpected, snappy. I thought you guys didn't have a sense of humor. And the comeback is so, it's like, you think there isn't poignant and undeniable humor in the fact that we are so reliant upon humankind, the entire universe laughs. We'd have to be deaf not to hear it. It just,
I like this guy.
Yeah, right? It's like this long-suffering quality to it. Very different from what we saw in the Seance.
Yeah, I definitely need a Skaze by my side, not a... It's like if any of you people out there that have played Destiny 2, it's like the two versions of failsafe, the happy-go-lucky failsafe, and then like the really sarcastic and bitter one.
I haven't played this. And things like, okay, so the frog, was there a point to this whole story? And Hoyt's like, yeah, so I think back on that moment and I realized something important. And he jumps in that your most awful experiences are never the ones you're anticipating. Which that's a nice lesson to take from that.
It's like, no, but good point.
Yeah. He's like, I think I'm going to use that sometime. Thanks for that. I realized that as horrible as that was for me, at least I wasn't the frog. And the Skaze actually chuckles at this. And Hoyt's like, yeah, they do have a wider range of emotions than I thought. I got to be careful about my interactions with not letting interactions with one member of a race, even a synthetic race, color my view of all of them. There is beauty in every disaster, friend, if you're clever enough to find it. And the guy's like, so, what do you mean? You failed utterly. You're not one of them. You haven't the powers you promised us you'd gain. You've accomplished nothing. So it sounds like he made a deal with these guys of some kind where he promised them that he was going to get powers.
Yeah, he told the Skaze, like, follow me and I'll get powers. And they're like, it didn't happen.
I feel like, what little we know of Hoyd, like, we saw him grab the bead of Laurassium back at the well. Mm-hmm. Like, so it seems like, okay, so your end game is to gain the powers that each of the shards are bestowed upon regular people. If he's trying to become an Elantrian, that fits. And I'm like, okay, so what deal has he made with the Skaze? If their bits of Dominion are like, have they promised that if he can get the Elantrian power, they'll show him how to get Dominion's power as well?
Maybe. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But his conclusion is that there's still secrets unknown, and I love a good puzzle. And he jumps into the pool and vanishes.
Yeah, and for me, that was like, they say that there's points in every world where the cognitive realm can be reached. So my guess is the pond, especially since we now know that the powers from these shards was dispersed into the cognitive realm, the pond is like basically a portal into the cognitive realm.
We did see him use the Well of Ascension to transition from the cognitive realm to the physical realm in Secret Histories. So,
and they made a point that the pits were like the other point of travel, really. So it seems like I'm pretty sure when we saw this pool, when Raiden fell into it in the book, we were just like, okay, so this is like the concentrated part of the shard's power. I think I made that guess. So I feel like, all right, so these travel points are basically where the power of the shard collects. The pits is where where Ruin's power was. The well was where Preservation's power was. So must be where Devotion's power was, and they basically use the shard's energy to travel to other places.
Yeah, I mean that fits, I guess.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So that little bit was added for the 10th anniversary edition. It never appeared before that, so little bits of interesting information that we get.
So I got a question about Hoyd, which I don't know if we're allowed to know the answer, but so obviously he's shown up in Elantris and in the Mistborn books that we've seen, and now with all this supplemental material in Secret History and this little tidbit here, obviously people can see he's working behind the scenes and doing a hell of a lot across the Cosmere. When did he What came first? So Elantris was the first book published, and then I think you said Mistborn was one of the next ones after that, and he's obviously in both. Did people freak out online when they realized, hang on, what's this guy doing in both of these? Or was it already revealed that he would be traveling between places or something? I don't know.
It is definitely something that people discovered as things went along. And like I said, this bit was added 10 years later. So in the original version of Elantris, all you had was like his name mentioned the one time when he's helping Serene.
But he still turned up. People were able to tell it was him.
Right. And so then he turns up in Mistborn as also a beggar, and people are asking questions like, wait, what's this? Is it a coincidence that there's two guys with the same name? Because once again, and also Secret History didn't come out for a long time. That's a very recent release. So there was a lot of mystery and a lot of theorizing about, is this the same guy? Is this different guys? Is there relevance? Is there not relevance at all? Is it a coincidence? Maybe like Brandon has a friend with this name and just uses it repeatedly. So there was a lot of theorizing, and in more recent years, it's become more clear like what's up with this character through stuff like Secret History.
Right.
So you guys are getting a bit of an advantage to be able to get this extra added stuff right off the bat.
Oh, I feel so special.
Cool.
Okay, we're over to the Selish System essay, also written by Chris. And really, I love the star charts at the beginning of each of these essays. They're like my favorite thing in these books.
Yeah.
That is pretty
in this
cool.
book, rather.
Yeah. Wait, am I remembering correctly? In the last system, it was just the one planet and the sun, right? There wasn't like other planets. I was pretty fascinated that there was multiple planets in this system anyway.
I'm looking at the map now. It looks like I think there are a couple of other planets, but they're so far back that they can't get any heat from the sun or anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Interesting. Both, now that I'm looking at the Skadrian system versus the Selish system, they both have a comet belt in them. Weird.
There are two like gas giants kind of at the outer part of the system, and there's also a couple dwarf planets. But within the habitable section, there's Skadriel's new orbit and Skadriel's old orbit. That's what shows up there.
Right on.
And I think she even mentions in the essay, like I don't think it's a coincidence that there's like one planet here, and that it's lucky that there is, because with how much it's moved around, that could have caused some problems if there was another one to run into. So, okay, yeah. The Selish system, central to the planet, is Sel, home to multiple empires that uniquely have remained somewhat ignorant of one another. It's kind of willful ignorance, with each of the three great domains pretending the others are mere blips on the map, barely worth notice. And we will see a little bit of what that's talking about in the next story we read. Planet's a little bigger than normal, 1.5 Cosmere Standard, which Cosmere Standard is based on the original planet.
Where Chris is from?
No, not where Chris is from, actually. Chris is from someplace else. Yolen, that's the name. The original planet where humans are from in the Cosmere, that when they created humans on Skadriel, when the two shards got together and made a planet, and humans, they were kind of mimicking Yolen with that one. So, and Yolen is basically Earth. It had Earth animals and Earth size and stuff. So it says 1.5 Cosmere Standard. It's 50% larger than Earth. And she says she's talking about the amount of variation you can find on this one planet: snow-covered plains, expansive deserts, etc., which, in fact, I would have found remarkable upon my first visit had I not by then discovered that this was the natural state of many planets in the Cosmere. So what we can take from that is the planet she's from is not like that. Sel's notable for being dishardic, one of the few planets in the Cosmere to attract two separate shards. So she's not saying it doesn't happen. There's a few of them, but there's not many.
Wow, dishardic. I definitely read that as dishardic, which is definitely not the word. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool word, dishardic. That's a cool made-up word. Dishardic makes a lot more sense.
She says she thinks that early on the shards didn't really care much about humans, and society slowly developed, discovering the powers that permeated the landscape. Hard to determine now, however, as at some point in the distant past, both devotion and dominion were destroyed, their investiture, their power splintered, their minds ripped away, and their souls sent to the beyond.
So, what the hell destroyed them?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. These are two pieces of God. What could do that? And at this point, the bulk of the investiture that made up the two powers of these shards is trapped in the cognitive realm. Now, it's not something that we're real familiar with at this point, but generally how investiture and how this power works, this godly power that you're accessing for magic. So for me, it's easier to think about it in terms of Mistborn. It always talks about the magic coming from the metal. They're burning the metal and getting this power from it. But in reality, what the metal does is it taps into the power of the shard, and most of the power exists in the spiritual realm, which is, it doesn't have a geography. It doesn't have, I'm not even sure that time is relevant in the spiritual realm. It's just everything there at one time. So all this power hangs out there in this infinite realm, and you draw on it by when you're using whatever magic it is. So the metal's kind of like a key that determines how the power, when you draw it, how it comes out. So all the power of these shards was mostly in the spiritual realm. That's where it hangs out until whatever or whoever, I guess, killed them, did whatever it did, and it took all that power and dumped it into the cognitive realm where it should not be. So collectively, these powers, which have a polarized relationship, are called the door, and they're basically trapped, bursting, wanting to escape into somewhere else. And because the cognitive realm has distinct locations, unlike the spiritual realm where most investiture resides, there she said it, magic on Cell is dependent upon physical position. Where you are, what the language and stuff is, directly shapes how the magic is pulled out of the cognitive realm and put to use. And she feels like the way this works is gradually changing things on this planet, and maybe the landscape itself has become invested to the point that it has a growing self-awareness in a way unseen on other planets. So that's possibly disturbing that your planet may be becoming self-aware.
Oh no, it's going to take the form of Kurt Russell.
Or it could be there's a planet in the Green Lantern Corps, right? That dude's cool.
Oh, Mogo?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I don't know how this has happened or what the ramifications will be, but I've begun to wonder if something greater is happening on Cell than we at the Universities of Silverlight have guessed. So this may be the first mention of Silverlight also. So apparently she's at a university in a place called Silverlight.
It's a place I want to go. Sounds like a hip place. Learn some good stuff.
I don't know if she's a professor or what her deal is, but
honestly, it sounds like it could
Professor
be.
will help.
It sounds like it could be a university in Elantris. I mean, Silverlight, that's kind of their thing.
Ah, indeed, that's an interesting point, yeah. Maybe they just have a different name for it where she's from.
Yeah.
Perhaps the Irie know more, but they are not speaking on the topic and have repeatedly denied my request for collaboration.
Yeah, so those people in the cognitive realm are like, nah, go F yourself.
Yeah, jerks.
Yeah, they do seem to be kind of massive twats.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not wrong.
At least the ones we saw.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a reason they split off from the rest of the Elantrians, I guess. Probably because they're major dicks.
Yeah,
Well,
that's exactly what it was. They kicked him out. Like, get out of here.
yeah. And ironically, it's like if they were Elantrians and got kicked out, they weren't affected by the
The Rayod, yeah.
Rayod?
Yeah.
I always get the Rayod and the Shayod mixed up in my head.
I know, they're so similar. She also mentions briefly the Seons and the Skays, splinters of self-aware investiture that have developed human-like mannerisms. The rest of the system is of little relevance. There are a number of other planets, but only one in the habitable zone. It's barren, inhospitable, and prone to terrible dust storms. So, okay. Which makes it uncomfortably warm, even for one who has spent a good portion of her life on the day side of Taldane. So there it is. She tells us that's where she's from, is Taldane, which was mentioned earlier as one of the planets. So it was like, even the methods on Taldane and Vax are not the same as this one. So she's from a place called Taldane, which has a day side. So we moved to the Hope of Elantris, which starts with this picture, which is frankly kind of creepy and terrifying. It's like a woman screaming, and what looks, I mean, I guess those are the Elantrian kids. Why they have like little hair bristles that look scary porcupine zombies is beyond me, but it's a creepy picture. So this
Little disappointed that the silhouettes of the Dark World monks don't look as inhuman as I thought they would.
No, I think those are supposed to be like the regular soldiers.
Oh, are they? I guess that makes sense given what happens. So
Yeah, and they didn't leave, and I don't. Most of this may have taken place actually, I guess, before. But after the Decor monks go to Teod, they only left a couple monks behind. It was mostly regular soldiers.
that's right.
But, this may actually take place before they left. So the wraparound for this is kind of like the King Killer Chronicles, where you got this wraparound bit that takes place after everything has happened. This is later on, and Aish is like, so Lady Serene says she's gonna be a little bit late to dinner. Round's like, dinner was supposed to start an hour ago. I think we're past a little bit late. I'm sorry. She made me promise to relay a message. If you complained, tell him that I'm pregnant and it's his fault. So that means he has to do what I want. Oh my god. Yeah, that sounds about right. Having dealt with a pregnant wife, yes, that sounds like the kind of thing. And Round's just like, okay, fine. And things are going good. Food is plentiful. People are happy. New Elantris is there. Everything's good. And Robin's like, hey, while you're here, Aish, I've been meaning to ask you something. Where were you during like the time before Elantris was restored. I mean, I didn't really see you around until you came to tell me that Serena had been kidnapped. And it's like, oh, well, that's a tale. Let me tell you this grand tale.
A tale which proceeds to not be from Aisha's viewpoint.
It is not from his viewpoint at all. I was about to say, it's kind of weird.
Oh, I didn't even put that together, but you're absolutely right.
But we get it's the viewpoint of Matisse, who is an older child who takes care of the younger children. I guess she's like a teenager or something, and she takes care of the younger children. It says Matisse took care of the children. That was her job in New Elantris. Everyone had to have a job. That was Spirit's rule. And she likes this job, so it's all good. And I wonder, like, how long most of these kids have been there, and since they don't age, like, I'm just wondering, like, how grown up they get. I guess nobody lasts all that long in Elantris, even if the children handle it a bit better, so it might not be that big a deal. They only end up being a year or two older than they look before they go ho-ed. But the kids are like, oh, we want to stay up, as kids always do. And it's like, no, you can't stay up, go to bed. But this, as we know, is right before, the core monks show up. So everyone's a little bit nervous. Galadon has been sent by Raudin here to teach everyone some aeons to try to defend themselves. He was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm worried something's going to happen, so get everybody ready.
I guess this kind of explained at the end of Elantris when Galadon shows up in Teod with all of them and is shouting which one to do. I was like, how would they all know which one to do? Because he taught them here.
Yeah, he's been drilling them. Even then, when they got that point, like half of them weren't able to correctly complete their Aeon, so they still hadn't learned that well. But it was half a couple hundred people shooting blasts at you is a lot better than nothing. And so she's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, maybe you guys can stay up. Go ahead and get out some quills and paper, and we'll just practice drawing Aeons a couple hundred times. And they're like, oh, never mind. We'll go to sleep.
Putting that little parenting hack in my back pocket.
Okay. I want to stay up late. Okay, I'll make up some extra homework for you. I'm good.
I'm good. I'll go to sleep now.
And there's the one little girl who can never sleep. And they're like, come on, try. But the kid's like, Aeons don't even work. Why do we have to practice these? And she's like, hey, there's a reason. I mean, you can see that there's some power there. Which is true, because when you draw them, a thing appears. So clearly there's some weird magical shit happening. It just doesn't do anything. And we get her perspective on the back in the day when things had been pretty bad in Elantris until Daishi found her in a sludge-filled alley. And basically he kind of adopted her. He became her dad, which is kind of sweet. She'd been an orphan even before being taken by the Shead. One day she just started calling him father, and he didn't object. So it's kind of nice.
Especially because, like all our experiences with the guy, he's been like really cold and angry. So it's nice to see a different side of him.
Yeah, right. But I think Daishi's still a grumpy dude. He's like, yeah, you never thought I'd see the day that Dulo was teaching people Aeons. And she's like, dude, be nice. Come on. Galadon's a nice guy. He's like, yeah, but I mean, he's not a scholar. He messes up the lines more often than not. But apparently Daishi's not real great at drawing Aeons either, so, pot and kettle. And Daishi's a little bit grumpy that Raudin's out there chasing that woman, as he says, not taking care of his people. Although in reality, he is actually taking care of his people. He's been crowned king at this point. Yeah, he definitely has. So he is 100% taking care of his people. It's just more than just you.
Yeah. He didn't exactly see to fill them in, though.
So Daishi also seems kind of narrow-minded here, where she's like, hey, maybe there's important stuff he's doing out there. Stuff to do with other nations and armies and stuff. And Daishi's like, nah, that doesn't concern us. And Daishi's also like, I mean, it sounds like Spirit thinks that the Aeons work now for some reason. And we've just been drawing them wrong all along. I don't know how many scholars who designed them could have missed a whole line, but whatever. He's a very grumpy dude.
Yeah. Actually, on that note, we never found out what caused the chasm, did we?
A bit, we did not. And I have a little bit I can say on that, but it actually comes up in one of the emails that gets sent. So
we'll wait for that.
That's when Ace shows up. So how he knew any of that stuff that happened before he shows up to tell Raudin the story, who knows? But he's like, Lady Matisse, and she's like, no, I'm not a lady. And he just calls everyone lady and lord, and he's very polite like that.
Not to backtrack too much, but what was that show where they're like, how did you know about the parts you weren't there for?
that was Dragon Ball Abridged.
Yeah. How do you know about the parts you weren't there for?
See, that feels like something that should have been asked repeatedly on How I Met Your Mother to me, but
Yeah, right.
he does cover that sometimes. I'm just not all the time, but there's totally bits where he's like, "Your Uncle Marshall swears that it happened this way," right before something ridiculous goes down. But anyway, I really like that show once upon a time. But Aish is here to tell them about the delivery, the one that we saw Lady Serene setting up with the weapons. And Aishi's like, wait, what weapons? Really? Sweet. And Matisse is like, but why would she send those? And he's like, I don't know, stuff's getting kind of hot outside, so I guess she wants New Elantris to be prepared, just in case. For all the good it ends up doing. And then Matisse has Aish come and tell a story to the children to help them go to sleep, especially the one little girl who just can never go to sleep. And she's like, hey, I'm sorry to take so much of your time. And Aish is like, no, it's actually great. I haven't been able to tell a story since my mistress was a child. So apparently she got Aish at her birth.
Again, that's a really cute little moment for Aish that we don't get to see a lot of.
Right?
When does Aish get to do what he wants?
Well, and I
Aish.
wonder about that. Yeah, I wonder about that. Like when she was a baby, he could communicate with her, so he's just floating around, hanging out.
It's
Like,
just looking out for her. If something happens, he can tell the king or whoever.
Yeah, there should be a whole cartoon episode where baby Serene, it's Mr. Magooing around, and Aish is trying to protect her and make sure she doesn't get. And then in the end, Aish just keeps getting beat up by stuff because he's trying to protect baby Serene, Serene who's magooing.
Baby and the Ball.
There you go. That's a good name. I'd watch it.
I prefer Serene's Day Out.
I mean, right now our baby's holding this little ball with rattle things in it and shaking it around. Maybe she was able to hang on to Aish, and Aish would just make gurgling sounds or something. I don't know. Seems undignified, but
yeah, the first few years of his pairing with her, he was just a rattle.
yeah.
He's just like, it's a living.
It says this Aish has a deep, sonorous voice. Can you just imagine a baby rattling around a ball that sounds like Morgan Freeman and sticking it in their mouth? The ball's just like, oh, no, oh.
Sorry, I'm just picturing this, and I don't know that we ever learn how much physical contact is actually possible. Can they? I think Rowden touches his at one point, so they're definitely physical, but they can't carry anything. They can't. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they weigh anything because they fly around. So
again, Destiny 2 here reminds me of the ghosts in Destiny 2 that float around and just kind of hang out with you, and then if you die, they can resurrect you with the light.
If you say so.
Yeah, it's a thing.
He says there was a time when almost no Elantrian went without a seance. So he's like, I think you're gonna get a seance one of these days, Matisse. She's like, wait, really? Yeah. After the city's fixed and everything, we'll find you a seance.
Whoa, back up. You're gonna get a seance named after your own Aeon, which is Atty. I'm like, yeah, Atty means hope. No, it fucking doesn't.
And
yes, I know the Ars Arcanum said, yeah, that's what that Aeon means, but hold the fuck on.
Yeah.
You're like, I've met Addy. He's not a hopeful guy.
No.
Different language,
And it's lucky she ends up with a different one.
Yeah, she does end up with a different one. So, but yeah. You're like, yeah, maybe we'll even get you an Aeon, a Seon with Addy as the Aeon, since that's the hope thing. And then Marishi rushes in, and it's like, Matisse, and she's like, hey, shut up, the kids are sleeping. Marishi has modified his clothing with a couple of sashes, which he feels makes the costume more artistic, which, okay, you do you, dude. And apparently Galadon has since wandered off again. So Daishi's out teaching people how to use the new swords that came in, and Galadon is who knows where. I think he's actually in the library, is what we figure out. But because he says him and Karada were in the library when the attack happened, so that must be where he's gone to.
Man, this sucks. You're in charge, Marish. Make sure people don't kill themselves, Marish. No, they never tell me what they're actually doing.
They go and have secret conferences without me. I like that he's the next in line. Like, if Karada and Galadon and Rowden are gone, they're like, Marishi, you're in charge.
I love this crabby bastard.
I mean, I guess technically he was the second one raid and recruited, and Karada's just been there longer and is more of a leader, so that's the only reason she's ahead of him. Right. So I mean, it makes sense to me. Marishi's like the one building all their stuff, designing all their clothes. He's got a lot going on. He's like the quartermaster over here.
Yeah, basically. He's basically Q.
Yeah. He's like, just bring the clothes back in one piece, Raiden, please.
She's like, oh, I wonder if they're off in the library, that secret library some of the day she mentioned. And then the screaming starts. And that's, they're like, oh, this is not good. And Aish goes to check it out. And the kids who are awake, or the older kids, are like, hey, what's going on? We want to find out. And they're like, no. And then they decide that they need to wake up all the kids again after they just got them to sleep. It's like, have them put their shoes on.
Never wake a sleeping child.
Not even if there are guys with swords coming up the road.
I mean, I feel like, yes, you could probably wake them then.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Aish comes back. He's like, soldiers, they're attacking New Elantris. They wear red and have the height and dark hair of Fjordals, and there's hundreds of them. Some of the soldiers are fighting, but there's too few of them. Elantris is already overrun. And she's like, no, this can't happen. The soldiers are attacking the people they find, and they're coming this way, so we have to get the children. I take care of the children. It's my job, she's thinking. It's the job Lord Spirit gave me, so she's going to take care of these kids. And so she gets them moving. She doesn't want to tell them anything because, this is not the thing that you want to tell them. She's like, it's an emergency. That's all you need to know. You know my father and how he's a soldier? Well, that makes me a soldier too. It's hereditary. The kind of logic that works on kids. It's like, no, yeah, that checks out. Okay. Oh gosh. And so they need to run. They're gonna head out. So they're trying to sneak the kids out before the soldiers get here. Good plan. Stuff starts burning. It's not great. She's like, surely there's the men in red uniforms. It's like, surely they wouldn't kill children. But yeah, no, they would.
Oh, there's somebody shooting fireworks. That's what that is. I was like, what is that noise? It's not New Year's Eve yet.
Not quite.
Maybe not for you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's not New Year's Eve here.
Summer.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because you're in the future, you think you're so special. I can see the future.
I can see the future.
But I like Aish is moving around out there to distract the soldiers, and they're like swinging their swords at him up in the sky. And while he's got him distracted, Daishi shows up. He charges in, starts cutting them down. But he's a good warrior, but more soldiers are showing up, and also he's an Elantrian, so he's not as strong as he could be. And he gets taken out, a sword through the chest. And Aish is like, no, you have to run, Matisse. And she's telling Aish, go find the kid leading the other kids, tell him put the lantern out and take them someplace safe. And she's like, he's like, where? It's like, the library. Where's that? And he's like, oh yeah, that's a hidden chamber that they might be safe there. Also, Galadon and Karada are theoretically there, so that's good. As good a place as any. And so she has them put that lantern out so she can turn on a lantern and lead the soldiers the wrong way, basically away from the kids. After making her own Aeon Aish to be like, hey, look over here. Here's a big light. Don't you want to kill me? I like that she runs around in the dark, just randomly turning corners and stuff, and she ends up right back where she started. Like, oh crap, there's Daishi. I was just here. And his Hoed mantra is run, Matisse, run to safety, which that's sweet and sad. But the soldiers have cornered her, and they're like, tell me where the other kids went. And she's like, I don't know. You tell her I hurt you bad. And that's when the ground begins to shake and things start happening. It was as if someone had injected a hot liquid into her veins. Something was right. Something was wonderfully right. Her wounds heal, and the soldier's like, wait, what, healed? She felt wonderful. She felt her heart. Hey, her heart's beating again. I guess maybe you noticed that sort of thing when it hasn't been going for a while.
Smithers, there's a strange sensation in my chest. I think your heart's beating again, sir. Oh, that takes me back.
Exactly, yeah. Burns the Elantrian. makes a weird kind of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm invincible. But no, even a slight breeze, invincible. And then as the guy's about to take out this girl who's a newly minted, for real Elantrian, a voice is like, hey, I think you missed something, friend. The light healed her, and it healed me too. And there's Daishi, back to his full strength, or even greater strength, because he's an Elantrian now. He's all silvery and glowing.
I think Destiny totally ripped off Elantris because the light's healing him. That's totally a thing. There's ghosts that are like Seance.
Yeah,
there's light healing you. It's all coming together now.
Are you saying that Aishi is Peter Dinklage?
Oh.
Nah. They replaced Peter Dinklage with Nolan North.
Oh.
They
I can see Aishi as Nolan North.
redid they redid all the dialogue with Nolan North because Peter Dinklage shat on Destiny.
Oh, Dinklebot.
Yeah, Dinklebot. R.I.P.
But I like that it ends. He's like, "Where's the other children, Matisse?" And she's like, "I took care of them, Father. Everyone has a job, and that's mine. I take care of the children." And so we cut back to Rowden, who's like, "So what happened?" And she's like, "Oh, I led him to the library, and Galadon and Karada were gone. Must have missed them. But I hid the children in there and kept them calm by telling them story."
And this is definitely the part where he should have been like, "How did you know about the parts you weren't there for?"
Yeah, exactly.
Also, you didn't tell the end of your story, man. Like,
Yeah,
you just were
I
like,
asked
oh yeah, we took the
you
kids.
what happened to you, and you told me this whole big thing about Matisse, and like, I mean, that's cool and all, but that's not what I asked.
But we find out that they gave Daishi 2 Seons from people whose masters had died and had no one to serve when their wits were restored, in thanks for his service to New Elantris, and he gave one to her. Ron's like, "Oh, did she actually end up with Aeon Addy after all?" And he was like, "No, I believe it was Aeon Ayo." I don't know how you say that exactly.
I just imagine like that's Freddie Mercury at like on the stage going, "Ayo."
But that one means bravery. As yeah, Joe actually asked me before we started if he was supposed to read the postscript, and I was like, "Nah, you don't need to read the postscript. It's not a big deal." But Dak clearly did read the postscript, and it is kind of a sweet story
I
about
didn't read
like
it.
it's just the name Matisse comes from like he was dating the person who would become his wife, and one of her 8th grade students, she was a teacher, was named Matisse and had done a book report on Elantris without knowing that her teacher was dating the person who wrote Elantris. And so that's kind of the source of where this character came from.
I mean, really just adds the whole Brandon will just name every single character after someone he knows in some way. So
exactly. We have seen this before. Okay. Let's we'll do a quick predicaments. I don't know what you guys could predict at this point, but if you have anything or any final thoughts on, since we're wrapping up Elantris in its entirety at this point, any final thoughts on Elantris or anything related to that, feel free to throw that out.
Prediction. I predict we will read something else. I feel like that's a safe prediction. I feel like I said kind of my piece on Elantris last time. Yeah, I think the book was good. I as a standalone work, I think it worked pretty well. I had some issues, like I said before, with kind of the style, but that's my thing. But yeah, it's good. It's all right. I think I enjoyed the Mistborn story as a whole more, even though I picked at it more than Elantris, but that's because there's more material to pick at, Like, I love, I think my favorite book that I really like to pick at is the 3rd Harry Potter book, because there's time travel, and that just, like, futzes with a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah. Time travel always does that.
Yeah, like, there's so many things in Harry Potter, I'm like, wait, now, is Hermione older now because she time turned a bunch? Like, does the person that gets time turned, do they keep aging at the same rate, or do their aging stop while they're reliving their past? Like, all sorts of weird stuff.
Breaks my brain.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, we're going into Harry Potter now. Let me break it down for you. If she had to turn time back for at least 2 hours a day to get to all of her classes, and we assume they only have class on weekdays, and we know that from September to June they're in class, and there's like maybe a week for Christmas break or something. So 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, so you're looking at 10 hours of time that she's redoing, basically. And that happens over a span of, let's say, six weeks if we use the American system. So 6 times 6 is 36. So 36 times 10. So that's 360 hours older than she was before, if that's how it works.
Mm.
Okay, I buy it.
Yeah, it's weird. Weird thing.
I did have a random thought, like just I think like early on when we were talking about who would play these characters if in a movie or anything. For some reason, I have in my head it's like maybe Tom Holland could do Raiden, maybe.
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah, and Elle Fanning as Serene would be good.
Sure.
Yeah. They'd have to give her some major lifts because Serene's supposed to be really tall.
I think Elle Fanning is super tall though. Like she's in this movie. I mean, granted, it's a movie with Peter Dinklage, but like she is really, really tall.
Let's see. Well, we know
He is
that
5'9".
Oh yeah, that's not that tall. We know that Tom Holland's pretty short. I think he's like 5'7".
Well, let's find out. Hold on. Google will tell me. He is.
Let me find out.
She just has to be
170
taller than everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
So they just shoot her like on a hill. That's what they did for Tom Cruise, right? They put him on like a bucket and stuff every time.
Yeah, he's about
I mean-
5'7". He's a little under 5'7".
Yeah, because
I think
I only know that because Zendaya is slightly taller than him, and that's like a thing people talk about.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's 5'8". It's 5.67 feet, and I was not thinking about the.
Yeah,
conversion.
5'8".
I mean, any time Robert Downey Jr. was next to Chris Evans, he had to be on a box or something. So
Wait, do you guys measure height in meters? I didn't think about that. I guess you do, huh?
Yeah, but we've got an idea of feet.
yeah, that's like the only thing we really consistently use feet for.
Is your height?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm about
Use
5'4".
use centimeters for shoes though.
No.
No.
I just buy shoe sizes. I don't know what
So-
they mean.
Yeah, I buy
Dak,
shoe
when you-
sizes.
Yeah, when you buy a shoe size, Dak, what's your shoe size?
I'm an 11, but I can't remember if that's a US 11 or a UK 11 because I think they're different.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Because in the U.S. it's done by inches, so like an 11 shoe is 11 inches long.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. There you go. The things you learn.
Do 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 do.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
Anybody else? Any final thoughts or predictions?
No predictions, but I did like it. So excuse my child. Every time. You good? Yeah, I like the story. I think the more I sort of sit back and think about it, it did really work as a story for me. I also am looking forward to how many little bits of information we got in Elantris that will come back to put some pieces of the puzzle together later on. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Cosmere all comes together. Just these little extra bits of material that we've read this time and secret history. We're going to be finding bits of information in those for ages, and we go, oh, that's what that was. And I'm looking forward to sort of that penny drop moment when things start to fall together. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the fun things about this this series of series or whatever you want to call it. This universe is the finding little things as you go along, which is part of the fun of the show. Which is why we're doing it the way we are, because I was like, oh, it'll be fun to discover things and not necessarily on reread, which is how most people discover most of it. Is like, Secret History comes out and you read Secret History and then you go back and reread some stuff. And you're like, oh, I get that now. But obviously we're not doing that that's not in the plan.
Yeah, that's on us. We have to go back and read them ourselves if we want to pick up that stuff.
Right, yeah. Most of that stuff I'm just like, so I don't know if you guys remember, but this was mentioned at this point to try to point it out so we don't have to reread whole books. Okay, we got 3 emails. We actually had 4, but one of them is from me. I was forwarding myself the Cosmere timeline that somebody... Brandon has been sort of vague on a lot of timeline issues because he doesn't want to set stuff in stone that he might later end up needing to change. So people have tried as best they can to put together a timeline based on the information we do have and stuff that he said. And so I found the best one recently and forwarded it to myself so I could take a look at it, because there was some information that I was not aware of. Like, for instance, according to this says that Devotion and Dominion being destroyed was year 1000 on this timeline. So if the shattering of Adonalsium is 0, this was year 1000. And then
Happy anniversary!
The book that we just read takes place on that same scale in the year 9111.
Woo! They've been dead a long time.
So yes, they've if that's correct, they have been dead a long time. And then
No wonder they're getting their gods mixed up.
Rashek taking the power at the Well of Ascension, which happens 1,000 years right before the main Mistborn books. Rashek taking that power takes place in 9601, according to this calendar. So that's 500 years after Elantris that we just read.
Oh, wow.
So, like I said, this is not set in stone. This is just the best that they could come up with based on the information we have. But that gives you an idea about like the differences that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, email's not from me. The first one is from Daphne. It says, hello to the whole crew. I'm Daphne. I'm from a small town north of Montreal, Canada, where everything's been covered in snow since the end of November. And yes, I normally speak French. That's hilarious because it's like it's like in the 80s here. It was like a high of 88 on Christmas, and that would be
Yeah, we broke a Texas record for heat in December this year. It got up to 90 degrees the day after Christmas.
our high on Christmas Day was 31.1 degrees Celsius for Celsius users. So it was warm.
Yeah, that's pretty warm for us.
It's about on par with
Oddly,
we were
that's
on
about
Christmas.
how warm it was here.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
But we're in winter and you're in summer, so
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have an excuse.
yeah, exactly.
She says, I've been reading along with you and listening to the podcast since the very beginning, and I just finished Elantris. I couldn't wait for you guys to come back from your break, sorry. I'm a first-time reader, and I'm enjoying listening to your discussions. It makes the reading experience so much fun. I really liked Elantris, but the ending left me with so many questions. I know this is a standalone, but I feel like a lot is left unresolved. So she's got several questions, and she's like, and I'll go back to them in a minute, but she says, I tried finding answers to these things on Reddit and online, but it's really hard because there's so many spoilers out there. So if Data can answer a few of these, or if you guys have the same questions, I want to discuss them, then that would be nice. So
Look, we're 4 books deep. I've just come to terms that there are going to be unanswered questions.
one of her questions is, how are Seons created? And all I can say on that is something Brandon has specifically called out, that if he ever gets around to doing a sequel to Elantris, that is something that will probably be addressed there. Second question is, what caused the chasm? Was it really simply a natural disaster? So there is somebody's asked Brandon, and I brought up the exact question that they asked, but they're like, so was the Rayod a natural event? So that's the fall of Elantris. And he's like, okay, well, that's kind of a weird question, because it's like, well, somebody says, you said that the earthquake, that's the earthquake that created the chasm, was not caused by natural events. And he says, okay, yeah, it's complicated because the earthquake was not caused by natural events, but the Rayod was a natural effect of the earthquake. So the Rayod is natural, as in a natural result of what happened, but the earthquake was not natural. And somebody says, was it because of like magic strain on the land? And Brandon says, that's certainly part of what was going on. So that is the most explanation we've gotten.
Okay, so the chasm was caused by something or someone doing something magically involved. So let's just go out and assume that's Jadith trying to get out of his rock tomb, and it's kind of like he just got the wrong part of the world when he was trying to break out and realized, oh wait, this isn't my house, and he had to go back down and try and break out in Fjordle.
Word.
I agree with you, Dak. That's actually was always my thought on it too. It's like, wait, well, Jadith's underground, right? So maybe these things are related. That's always been my feeling. I don't know if there's even actually is an entity that like Jadith. I mean, we know their gods are dead, so maybe that there really isn't anything like that. But that was always my thought.
Is that the Fjordles have just been watching too much Dune and thought, well, all right, there's something underground. Those are the worms.
Our next question is, what are the Jeskari mysteries exactly, and why was Iodon doing sacrifices? Was it working? I kind of assume no, that it's just like something fucked up that has developed, but maybe. There's no information on that I know of.
Just imagine that
Yeah,
the cultists. Like, he's just like, so we've sacrificed 40 girls this month. Like, can we knock it off? And he's like, no, we have to go again. It's going to work this time, I promise.
Again.
It is something that I had not thought of in a really long time.
Yeah, a lot's
The
happened.
mysteries.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we've come a long way.
I'm just going to take Galadon's word for it and just basically say, like, yeah, it's total BS.
Yeah, that's where I've always come down on it.
Now, if it was a more competent character than Iodon, would we still be saying BS, or are we saying BS just because we hate him? As everything associated with him must be redundant.
I feel like Galadon knows the most about Jesker, and he's just like, no, that's like a stupid perversion. So I think that's where it comes from for me. I'm like, okay, he seems to be the one who knows what he's talking about on that.
Yeah, that's true. He knows more than I do.
That's how
For
Seons
sure.
are created.
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah, they're just scary mysteries.
Human sacrifices, and yeah.
Every time a human sacrificed, a Seon gains its flight.
It's like, oh, why did this Seon not come into being? Sir, you meant to get naked first. Oh, right.
Oh. the
Okay, bring in
naked.
another
I
girl.
always forget about the naked.
You gotta carve the Aeon, and it's just messed up.
It's messed up.
The next question is, how are people chosen to become Elantrians? We actually talked about that a little bit on this episode. We don't know, and neither does Chris, for that matter. So, good question. Then we know that Dilloff could cancel the power of Aeons. Won't the Viking Pope now focus on creating an army of creatures with that same ability? So, yeah, I mean,
Thank you for calling him Viking Pope.
right? Yeah, we appreciate that.
caught on.
But we talked about that at the time because, like, in I guess the last episode, because apparently it takes killing 50 people to give somebody that one ability in addition to the other abilities that require killing people, right? And he's just
that's a lot of
lost
abilities.
the majority of these guys that he's already started working on, so he's kind of back to square one.
I mean,
a lot of people now.
Yep.
if the majority of the empire was feudal, I guess he's got a lot of people to work with, but yeah, it's rough.
I mean, we thought Iodon was messed up for sacrificing his, servants. Like, geez, how many people is this guy killing?
Well,
to
at least
give
he's
people
presumably
powers?
doing them while clothed.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's the thing about Viking Pope. That's his secret.
He's
he's always naked.
Except for the Pope hat with the horns on it. He always has to wear that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the only thing he wears. He's like, yeah, whenever, he beds women, they're always like, leave the hat on. He's like, oh, I'm not taking it off. Don't even worry about it.
You can leave your hat on.
Put on the Mr. Plow jacket.
How do we get here?
It's just us. That's how we roll.
I mean, I live here. It's
Okay, her next one is, I can't believe Fjorden is just going to leave Erelon and Teod alone now. Surely another plan to conquer will be set in motion. Yeah, you have to imagine, right? That's all I can give you on that. Like, I don't know. I guess so. You would think.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
well, yeah.
They had a big
It's
setback, so.
Yeah, sure, maybe.
Why did Serene's father decide to take the throne from Keen? As everybody is okay with it now that it's known. I mean, we talked about that in the last episode, which hasn't come out yet, so you couldn't have heard it yet. But like the background on that, or maybe it was the episode before the last one. Either way, when this email was sent, that hadn't come out. So that's some information on that. But I agree. It feels weird that everyone's okay with it.
Maybe everyone just really hated Keen in Teo.
Yeah.
He was so absent, so
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
kind of
it's like the
expecting.
prince. Yeah, the prince versus the guy who's attacking your kingdom.
Her last thing is, if you guys are looking into for another fantasy series to read just for fun, I strongly recommend the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. Actually, the whole realm of the Elderlings is wonderful, and I feel like you guys would love it. I have read the first trilogy in that universe. I thought it was okay. I liked it enough to reach the end of the trilogy, even though I had problems with it along the way. I did not like it enough to then go and continue into the rest of the universe.
I have had several people recommend Robin Hobb to me, so I really should get on that.
Although I guess at the time that I read the trilogy, there was only one other book in the universe, so I said that weirdly. Like, yeah, I didn't want to read the rest of them. I didn't want to read that one other one that eventually turned into more. But
Yeah, screw it. I don't want to read that.
so that was Daphne. Thank you.
Thank
the
you.
next one is from Michael, who says, "Hello, Sanderlanche crew," with an E. Just listened to the next to last episode covering Elantris, and I'm so excited for y'all to finish this story. It sounds like the reading schedule has tightened up a bit for the recordings over the holidays, and what a convenience that is over the Sanderlanche itself. Oh, because we're going through the part of the book that's the Sanderlanche. Sorry, I was lost for half a second. Even without a week to ruminate on the ideas and chapters, you're still able to come up with delightful predictions. I don't know if that speaks to the imagination of the group or the sheer possibility for anything to happen during a Sanderlanche. You're all very clued in, folks, and I'm sure someone got it right or got it close enough to be satisfied in the final episode's wrap-up. I don't know that anyone managed to predict the crazy shit that happened in the last section.
No, I think this is that one
yeah.
alone.
I don't think we predicted that. I kept thinking that they weren't going to be able to fix it.
Right?
But I think I was, honestly, if we hadn't read Secret History, I may not have made that jump. I kept thinking the people in the Eyrie were people from the future of Elantris, and so since they were still all messed up looking, I just made the assumption in my mind that that they were not going to be able to fix it all the way.
Yeah. I guess if what we learned was true, then if this timeline is correct, then it's actually like the people in the Eyrie are 1,500 years before when we first saw them in Secret History.
Right. I'm still riding high on the Drayak Crush Throat prediction that we randomly stumbled across.
Yeah, that's probably our biggest thing.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
It's true. This is a good one.
I think that I do remember there was an email saying it's like, oh, if someone made a joke that turned out to be true. I'm just like, well, it has to have been that one because we made such a big thing of it. I'm pretty sure we've done that before with like jokes, aside jokes, but that was the first one we wrote as a big thing.
Yeah, I almost wish it hadn't been true so that we could poke fun at it more. Because now that it's true, it's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as ripe.
Yeah, it's not as funny when it's true. He says, I'm so glad everyone seems to enjoy or mostly enjoy this work. It's a delight to get back to this story, and I know we all enjoy listening to the climax of the story along with y'all. Very excited for the next story, which I assume will be standalone. Either option taken are both my favorites. You all are exactly right about the great avenues for spin-off stories. What a shame Cell Elantris is on Brandon's back burner and the Cosmere is already so vast. It may not be dinosaur erotica, but this would be some great fan fiction to write and read. Loyal listeners.
Yeah. Dinosaur erotica. Man, I've really slowed down on my YouTube channel. I've been busy with work and stuff. I need to drop some more videos, but I haven't had time. What other spin-offs did we talk about? Because we talked about one today, but I'm trying to
Talk about like
remember.
Galadon and Drayok and a couple other
yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah. It's like Galadon and the schoolgirl. You know something.
Okay.
That's a Who's Line joke.
Nelson mentions further down that he's a regular user on the Discord, and he feels like maybe questions have slowed down because people can go and ask things on the Discord. Which
That's fair.
So yeah, that could be part of it.
People are on the Discord.
Why is the community keeping us from answering questions? I'm just kidding.
Let's see. How many people are signed up on? We've got we've got about 50 people registered on the Discord. There's probably not nearly that many who use it regularly, but that's
cool.
The number.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll take it.
We're shutting the Discord down.
No, that's not true. Don't listen. The last email is from Bradley, and he says, "Hello, I've been listening to the Sanderlanche for a while, and I wanted to chime in saying I enjoy it quite a bit. I hope you all have been enjoying your trip through these first couple of books. I do have one concern. I'm worried that data mentioning information about future books could lead to disappointment or frustration for Jamie, Dak, and or Joe. For example, data describing the Mistborn book as the first Mistborn book as a self-contained story, which caused one of you to feel disappointed with several unanswered questions remaining. I'm concerned that Data did a similar thing with Alloy of Law by describing it as a Western, when in my opinion, it's the prologue is a Western."
Well, it's fine. He's guiding. He's our Sherpa.
Wasn't the greeting from the place of Canada, Bradley? I just had to read the sign off. That was good.
Oh,
Come on. Let's keep the spook talk to a minimum, okay?
It's not wrong about Alloy of Law exactly. I tried to describe it in the past. It's part Western, but it's more like the end of the Old West sort of thing.
So like Red Dead Redemption style. Like
Red Dead Redemption is always what I have thought about in relation to it. Yeah, and it's probably in general more urban than Red Dead Redemption. It'd be like Red Dead Redemption if most of the story took place in that one town that's there.
Maybe like Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption, but it's like does it have like some steampunky aspects?
I wouldn't really call it steampunk. People have called it steampunk, but I don't really think that that applies. It's really it follows a very Earth technology progression, except built in with how Allomancy would, affect these things. But anyway, we're gonna get there before too terribly long, so I won't go into it much. But
there's somewhere between like the Twilight of the Old West and the Roaring '20s.
Yeah, no, that's actually pretty good. A pretty good way to look at it.
Sherlock Holmes, the second one.
But anyways, so those are our emails. For next time, we are starting The Emperor's Soul, which I did mention last time. That's where we're going next. The Emperor's Soul is divided up not into chapters, but into days. So, and the days are not, I almost said not sequential. They do go in the correct order, but they skip some in the middle. So what we will be reading for next time is the prologue of The Emperor's Soul, which is in the Arcanum Unbounded book that you guys have. It actually starts right after the Selish System, I think. And we're going to read the prologue, day 2, day 3, and day 5. So that is for next time. We're going into the Emperor's Soul, which takes place on Sel. We're still on the same planet. But you remember when it talked about how like there's different empires and they kind of ignore each other. This is a different one from where we have been.
Cool.
So that is for next time. 4 chapters, essentially. Prologue, day 2, day 3, day 5.
Just so I have it, like what's after day 5 so I know where to put the marker and say stop here.
After day 5 is day 12.
Okay, so if I see day 12, that's the okay, there we go. Thank you.
Okay. If anyone would like to send us emails, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, and I almost said Facebook Marketplace for some reason. We're not there. Don't look there.
We're not selling anything yet.
No.
Instagram, Twitter, all that sort of thing. Send us things, comments, likes, whatever you want to do. We're on YouTube. I haven't updated the last couple episodes to YouTube yet, but they'll get there eventually someday.
Yeah, man, you did a good job. You got them all up.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
we're much more caught up
Yeah.
than before. That's the important thing. We're making progress. But yes, going into the Emperor's Soul, which I love. I really love the Emperor's Soul, so I'm excited to do that for next time. And music by Miracle of Sound. And Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo.
My name's Joel, get up, get out in the city of dreams.